Hope you guys are doing well. Now, we get a lot of queries from our students who talk about their struggles with the CELPIP exam. They will tell us they failed the exam 3 times, 4 times, multiple times. I had a student failing CELPIP and IELTS combined for a total of 25 times before she approached us. And well, that is unique. That won't happen to you because she had some mental issues as well. Her brain processing abilities were hindered because of some of her diagnosed issues. But that does happen. So just pointing it out, if you failed 10 times, you're not the worst case scenario. Okay, so people do fail a lot. Now the question is how to deal with this. Now, do we give up? Do we have other options? For example, switching to IELTS or some other exams, or do we use some practice material and resources to help ourselves out? First of all, one question that I get from really frustrated customers because they have tried so hard and they get so frustrated, and the question is, should I just pay someone to do my CELPIP test, or should I pay for a CELPIP certificate? This kind of thing happened in IELTS, not happens. It used to happen in IELTS. I've never heard this happening in CELPIP, and now it doesn't happen in IELTS anymore because of the strict checks. And if you try to do anything like this in CELPIP, you could be fined a lot, and you can even have legal consequences. So please don't ask these questions, and there's no way anyone can do this. If anyone promises to give you a CELPIP certificate for some sort of money, you would either lose that money, which is usually between $5,000 to $10,000 that these scammers ask you. You will end up losing that money, or you would have legal consequences and you will never get your results. So please don't even try. All right, the other option, let's say you have done this exam 3 to 4 times and failed. You want to give up. I have only had in my 8 years of teaching, now we've been in business for over 15 years, but when I was teaching for 8 years, I never had anyone give up except for 2 students. There were only 2 students who really gave up, and I taught thousands of students. So giving up is really not an option, and that just means you will sacrifice all your dreams and goals. So please don't do that. Majority don't. As I said, in 8 years, only 2 people actually gave up on their dreams. Most found a way. So now let's talk about the ways that you can change your scores and turn your marks around. Let's talk about the very first and the most easy option, which is switching to IELTS. When people do this, it's an instinctive thought that I didn't score here, so I will score in IELTS. Not really. If you're struggling in the reading and listening modules, they have the same difficulty level in IELTS. I have seen a few cases, I won't say never, of people going to IELTS and doing better in reading and listening, but I've seen the same in CELPIP. It's not a major distinction. It's not a guaranteed thing that those 2 modules will have any difference. But when it comes to writing and speaking, let's talk about that. Writing in IELTS is marked very strictly. Everybody fails in writing. But if you come to CELPIP, writing is easy. However, speaking is hard. So people fail here on speaking. So this is how both exams get customers. People fail here speaking, people fail there writing. Now let's assume you have scores in CELPIP. You got reading, listening, let's say you got over 9, okay? Your target is 9, so reading and listening is good. But writing, you got a score of, let's say, 8. Speaking, you got a score of 5. In your case, go with IELTS because your speaking is too bad in CELPIP. It's going to take a long time for you to go from 5 to 9, okay? If you go to IELTS, maybe your speaking will be 6.5 to 7.5 because IELTS speaking is easier. So that is a much better recommendation for you. However, you will still struggle in IELTS writing because in CELPIP your writing was 8. Now in IELTS you go there, the equivalency of that is 6.5. But actually, because IELTS is much more difficult, it's going to be actually 6. So IELTS writing 6 will be equal to your CELPIP writing 8. But you will have a much easier time going from 6 to 7 in IELTS writing than going from 5 to 9 in CELPIP speaking. So that's just one scenario for you. If you see with your scores that speaking is your weakness, don't do CELPIP, go with IELTS. Similarly, if you are doing IELTS, or let's say we're just talking about CELPIP customers here. Let's do the opposite scenario. Let's say your speaking in CELPIP was 10, okay, but your writing was 6. And now you always see that this happens in your exam. Your speaking, reading, listening are good, but your writing, you keep failing, and you decide to go with IELTS. Terrible decision. If you're getting 5 or 6 in CELPIP, you're probably going to get 4 in IELTS writing. And 4 to 7 in IELTS is a huge ladder to climb. So don't even think about it. If your writing is weak, you just have to improve it. Stick with CELPIP and find ways to improve it. So that's one thing that will help you guys understand if you should switch or not, because switching is not always easy. It depends on your circumstance and your scores. Now, as I said, there you can find ways to improve, and one of the best ways to do that is to either take our self-paced course, and the link for that you can find in the description. You can also take our live classes, which are a little bit more pricey than a self-paced course because you get a one-on-one teacher, you get customized feedback as well. However, the best thing to do is ask us. If you're ever confused, just email us at info@hzadeducation.com. The email is in the description as well. We'll guide you based on your individual case. We will give you a recommendation via email, tell us what you're scoring, what you need to score, and we'll let you know what the best course for you is. Everybody's different, so it really depends, okay? But the best thing you can do is prepare with a coach, because if you do it on your own, you burn time and money. You book the exam again and again, you pay $350, and you waste a lot of time that you could have saved and done other more productive things. So the best thing is to take coaching with a reputable institution, if not us, some other reputable institution, but make sure you take the right coach and the right coaching program to better your results. Because mostly when people are failing, they're not our customers. They are failing, they take our classes, they take our courses, results change. Simple as that. We also offer a money-back guarantee, so you don't really have any risk. You don't lose any money once you get started with our training and courses. Now, the other stuff you can do online is practice free stuff, okay? If you don't want to invest money, which is risky, you want to do it on your own, you have a budget constraint, I understand. Practice with our YouTube videos, practice with online CELPIP materials on the HZad Education blog and the HZad Education YouTube channel. On our blog, you will see a lot more written resources, for example, listening notes and reading materials, as well as writing and speaking questions and sample answers. So you can check out our blog as well in this description, and our videos, of course, on YouTube. Okay, the other thing is to self-diagnose. So if you, again, cannot invest in a teacher, which is, by the way, we charge very, very reasonable rates, but if you can't invest in that, diagnose yourself. I give you an example earlier of how you can do that based on your scores. But for example, let's say that you're doing bad on the reading module. When you practice at home, look at the questions you're getting wrong. Why is that happening? Do you have a vocab issue? Is that the reason that you cannot understand the words and relate it with the question? Then you need to work on vocabulary, right? If it's a paraphrasing issue, if you don't know the synonyms, of course the passage is paraphrased in the question. If you don't know the synonyms, you need to open a thesaurus and work on the synonyms, or go to thesaurus.com. If you're listening and the problem is speed of the speaker, and you cannot catch up, that you can fix only with practice. The more you practice, the more you can fix your speed issues. But if it's something different, like you lose your train of thought, then you need to work on concentration skills and so on. So you want to self-diagnose what's wrong, what has happened in your practice tests at home and in the exam, and work on that. Okay, so self-diagnosis is important if you do not want to go with a teacher who can diagnose it for you much more efficiently. And by the way, we do offer a free session where you can be diagnosed. If you don't want to proceed after that with classes, that's okay. At least you get a free diagnosis, which is very accurate. And the final thing I'm going to say is take time. A lot of students, what they do is they fail 3 times, right? They book the 4th attempt the next week. How are results going to change in a week, right? I know there's deadlines and work permit issues and so on, but you will most likely keep failing if you do not give yourself enough practice time. Either self-practice time or class practice time, or using our course to practice. And by the way, if you do have a short deadline, you can finish our 15-hour course within 2 to 3 days if you really study the whole day. So that's the best thing you can do in terms of a crash course. Once again, the link for all of that is in the description. But ideally, if you're, let's talk about specific numbers. If you are needing to increase by 1 point, listen to this, 1 point in reading, listening, and the writing modules, you need 1 to 2 weeks, okay? In 1 to 2 weeks, self-practice or teacher practice. With teacher practice, it's a little lesser, but let's say 1 to 2 weeks for each module. So if you're scoring 1 point less in the 3 modules, then you need 3 to 5 weeks, okay? But I'm saying if it's 1 mark less only for, let's say, writing, give yourself 1 to 2 weeks and only practice that. Of course, polish other things, but main focus on writing. But when it's speaking, the time becomes double, all right? So If you need to improve by 1 point in speaking, you need to give yourself 2 to 3 weeks. As I said, speaking in CELPIP is much more difficult, so you would need more time there. So calculate according to these guidelines how much more time you need and really stick to those guidelines. Practice for that time and then book the exam so you don't waste another $350 registering. You also don't have the demotivation of failing again, because if you do book it very quickly, most likely you will fail and you will lose the hope of passing again. So please listen to these guidelines, and the worst advice that you can follow among all the advice that I gave you today is to give up. Please don't give up. There's always hope. And if you do feel like you want to give up, ask us some questions. Email us at info@hzadeducation.com, and we can guide you and set you up to your path for success and achieving a good score. I hope this video helps. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk soon. Take care.